My name is Kristen Shiro. I'm the Director of Human Services for Bridgewater Township. I would like to welcome everyone to Bridgewater Township. This is an amazing town to live, work, and play. I'm actually the new Director of Human Services here. I've been here for about 6 weeks now. So I'm very happy to be here with everyone. And I do want to apologize on behalf of the mayor that he was not able to be here today. Mayor Dan Hayes wishes everyone well and thanks you all for being here to hear about the EPA's proposed plan. We are very thrilled that this meeting is taking place and that we are announcing a cleanup proposal for the final portion of the American Cyanide Superfund site. And without further ado, I'm actually going to bring up and introduce the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Regional Administrator, Pete Lopez, who will be telling you all about the proposed plan. Thank you.
So I'm going to adjust this quickly. I just want to thank everyone for letting us join you today. So I'm very pleased to be with you. I'm Pete Lopez. I'm the Regional Administrator for Region 2, and we represent New York, New Jersey, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and 8 Indian nations. I just want to highlight, say a few thank yous if I could before we get underway. So first, of course, to the town of Bridgewater, and Kristen, thank you so much for the gracious introduction. Also like to highlight, we have Deputy Commissioner Debbie Manns with us from New Jersey DEP. We're happy to see Debbie with us. Crisis Chairman, Executive Chairman Ross Stander, who I had a chance to meet. Also, we have our Chief of Staff from my team, Chris Lyon is with us. Walter Mugden, our acting regional administrator, deputy administrator, soon to be permanent administrator, deputy administrator. Sarah McCopek, my special assistant. Melissa Demas. Just kind of raise your hand so folks can see you. Stephanie Vaughn, Mark Austin, Mark Schmidt, and Jennifer May. Jennifer's particularly good at hovering. I don't know where Jennifer is. There she is. She's hovering in the back. So we're very pleased to announce that the major cleanup proposal for the American Cyanamide Superfund site. And this is a site that's been on the administrator's special emphasis list. And many people have asked, what does that mean? So just to highlight, Administrator Pruitt, in his tenure in this role, has reaffirmed the preeminence of the Superfund mission as central to EPA's function across the nation. And when you consider, we work very closely, of course, with our state partners. Every state, every commonwealth, the territories we serve have different capabilities. We do work very closely, and sometimes there's a bit of tag team as we manage complex environmental mitigation. But the administrators has rightfully asserted that EPA is often in the best position to handle very complex, very complicated mitigation. And again, the emphasis being on protecting health and the environment. So this particular cleanup is going to address contamination at 2 toxic waste disposal areas at the site that are not yet covered by a final cleanup plan. So in the plan itself, the major components that we'll be focusing on are excavation and removal of the waste contained within these 2 areas, destruction of the excavated waste at an off-site facility, such as a cement kiln, high-temperature kiln, stabilization of any remaining waste that may be left in place to ensure the waste will not move or leach to pose a threat, followed by backfilling of the excavated areas, and then lastly, placement of a protective cover over the entire area. Now, the 2 disposal areas combined, just over 4 acres in size, contain about 55,000 cubic yards of acid tar waste. And this waste is highly acidic, excludes extremely high levels of both volatile and semi-volatile organic compounds, including benzene and naphthalene. And of course, those are harmful to human health. The cleanup will permanently destroy an estimated 44,000 tons of hazardous waste and collect and treat approximately 2.3 million gallons of contaminated liquid at a cost of over $74 million. This work is expected to take approximately 38 months to complete and will be performed by Wyeth Holdings, LLC. Just moving forward, the site itself has a history of industrial pollution dating back to 1915. And for nearly 100 years, the 435-acre site was used for numerous chemical and pharmaceutical manufacturing operations. So in 2012, EPA selected a site-wide cleanup plan that's currently ongoing. The two disposal sites that we are proposing a cleanup plan for today were not included in the original plan due to the particular engineering and scientific challenges they propose. So those two lagoons in particular have the worst of the worst in terms of what we have to deal with on site. So the piece that's also compelling is that these sites are very close to the Raritan River, and the contaminants, again, being highly complex, have required extra focus and evaluation on the part of EPA and our colleagues. So the ongoing cleanup operations have three major components. So first will be treatment of the soil using solidifiers and stabilizers to keep it in place, and installation of engineered capped systems to address three highly contaminated impoundments in site soils. Secondly, the ecological risk assessment to determine whether the three additional impoundments require excavation and relocation, and then installation of a groundwater treatment system to address contaminated groundwater and keep harmful contaminants like benzene from reaching the Raritan River or migrating to other off-site areas. We expect to complete the installation of the groundwater treatment system by the end of this year, and once that portion is complete, soil cleanup work will commence. Once constructed, over 6 miles of groundwater collection pipes will be installed and connected to the treatment plant. Just from a perspective standpoint, Superfund cleanup sites are selected based on their protectiveness of human health and the environment, and this plan certainly fits that bill. So today's cleanup plan will result in positive outcomes for the local community. And for example, some of the benefits will include increased tax revenues and job creation. According to EPA, 487 of 888 sites nationwide clean for reuse support approximately 6,600 businesses in 2017. Ultimately, they generate annual sales of $43 billion and employ more than 156,000 people, earning an income of $11.2 billion. Here at American Cyanamid, some portions of the site have already been significantly redeveloped for use, including the minor league baseball field, the commuter rail station, as well as several commercial businesses. Now, again, as we highlight some of the commercial aspects, bear in mind that not all aspects of a site really are conducive to those sorts of uses. So as we move forward with this particular aspect, more passive uses may be concerned. One thing that we're particularly mindful of is the impact on the floodplain, and that's being within the 100-year floodplain reach. And so certainly protecting the community from that aspect and including leachate into the river is a major concern. So just back on script, bear with me, that was a slight deviation. American Cyanamid's site on the Superfund National Priority List occurred in 1983. And so for over 3 decades, the site has been moving forward, but our goal at this point is to place special emphasis and to provide immediate and intensive attention to expedite the cleanup. So the task force, Administrator Pruitt had developed a task force, national task force, a year ago for that very purpose, and this was one of the elements, one of the sites included as part of his emphasis list. In the recommendations that were made for that process was to expedite the cleanup process, reduce the financial burden on all parties involved in the entire cleanup process, encourage private investment, promote redevelopment and community revitalization, and again, importantly, build strength and partnerships. So by the end of 2018, EPA will be on track to delete from the NPL in whole or part over 20 Superfund sites. And as Administrator Pruitt continues to reinforce the Superfund as a central component, communities will benefit. So just on a personal note, we are very pleased to engage. And really the heart of our mission is to be able to engage constructively with our partners, the stakeholders, community members. And really, it's our observation collectively that where we can do that and where there's ownership, joint ownership of a project, it's bound to be successful. The solution resonates within the community. It's bound to be more enduring. And so we are very thankful to have such partnership here locally. So with that said, I'd like to then welcome our next speaker, Debbie Manns, who is Deputy Commissioner with DEP from New Jersey. So please welcome Debbie. Good to see you.
I'm going to try to do this. Can you hear me do I have to move mic? Okay. Thank you, Regional Administrator Lopez, and good morning. Once again, my name is Debbie Manns, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner at New Jersey DEP, and we're pleased to be here to mark a major milestone in the cleanup of this site. And I really want to thank the staff of EPA Region 2 who have been so wonderful to work with, and the leadership of Regional Administrator Lopez for their close cooperation with New Jersey on this issue. Also acknowledge and thank the local leadership of the Mayor Hayes and Kristen, who's here, and the community groups and the advocacy works of Crisis. Now I have in my notes it's been since 1992, but I think it's corrected to 1998 or 88.
92 was the start of the tag, and 88 was the prior thing I talked about.
That's okay. To be clarified later. And they've been providing technical oversight of this facility on behalf of the public. And I really also want to recognize our DEP staff, Hayesh Shah, who's here. Thank you. He wore a tie today, special, so we want to recognize that. The cleanup proposal, which is being announced today, marks the final stage of the cleanup for this site. And the site, which was for more than 90 years used for chemical and pharmaceutical manufacturing, has been contaminated for so far too long. And it always takes longer than we would like to get these sites on track to be cleaned up. But it's so important that we get the right cleanup. And that's why it's important that we mark this today. And we're here because it's going to be good for the community and it's going to be good for the environment. It's really important that we're permanently eliminating any potential source of contamination in this flood area, and that we're maintaining a flood zone to help protect the community. The proposed cleanup, as the regional administrator mentioned, includes excavation and dewatering of contaminated material and off-site disposal, and it's the best way to permanently eliminate this contamination. And we're really thankful that the EPA worked closely with us to address and adhere to strict air emission standards, particularly for the chemicals found on the site. And I also want to thank Pfizer for their proactive approach regarding the overall remediation of the site and their commitment to construct and operate the wastewater treatment plant on the site as part of the overall cleanup strategy. And we do expect that wastewater treatment plant to be in testing mode and operational by the end of the year. So that's great news. In addition, I want to mention that Pfizer has been committed to the restoration of this river as part of their settlement for natural resource damages, which go above and beyond any cleanup that needs to be done. They were instrumental in taking down the Western Mill Dam, which was one of 3 dams that was removed from the Raritan River and restores fish passage for American shad, American eel, herring, and striped bass. So it's more than just about cleaning up a site, it's about the restoration of the region. So we look forward to the time when this site is fully remediated and protective of environment and public health. And thank you to everyone for their leadership today. And now it's finally our man of the hour, the crisis chairman, Ross Stander. I only say that because I came from before I joined the DEP in this transition, a group that was a co-chair of a Superfund site in northern New Jersey. And I know how many nights you've given up to work on behalf of the community to make sure that we got to this day. So thank you for that. So Ross Standler, come on.
Hi, morning. That was definitely too kind, but I appreciate it very much. It appeared certain in 1988 that between 2 and 4 waste incinerators were going to be built on this site or around this area. So we were looking forward to fumes from garbage incineration, metal incineration, plastic incineration. So at that time, Crisis was formed. That goes back to 1988. And we were formed as a community action group to fight against those incinerators. It took about 2 years, but we did win. And by the way, with good support from Bridgewater and former Mayor Dowden. We lobbied the state legislature. We met with Governor Tom Kean at what was then the new Bridgewater Mall. By the way, he was incredulous at the thought that people were suggesting 4 incinerators. So today, there's no as I say, we won. There's no incinerators today. There's a baseball stadium. There's a shopping mall. And the number of acres were reduced from over 500 to 435 acres on the site. But there's still, as has been said, very contaminated groundwater. There's 8 toxic waste lagoons, and we're sitting in a floodplain. In 1992 was Crisis that morphed to advocate for the cleanup of the whole site. In 1993, we received the TAG award from EPA, and that continued till today. So, and the TAG pays for us to have a very good technical advisor who's an expert in the field. We monitor and question the work, of course. We push for stronger remediation. We try to communicate as best we can to the community. Let me spend a couple of minutes just talking about a little history, particularly because I think there's a lesson in it. And this site has moved in those years from being a world-class chemistry manufacturing facility to a Superfund site. How did that happen in brief? It got its start as a chemical factory during World War I. It was called Calco Chemical, and they were making dyes and pigments for the U.S. Army uniforms because supply from Germany had been blockaded by England. In the late 1920s, it was acquired by American Cyanamid, and it became a world-class organic chemistry research and development and manufacturing facility by sometime in the 1930s and into the 1940s. Unfortunately, it was based on this dirty coal tar chemistry, which produces large volumes of benzenes and VOC contaminants. What about the pollution then? It turns out that when you study it, the heavy pollution in the river and waste lagoons was no accident by cyanamide. Cyanamide was following a pattern that had been established for these kinds of facilities in Swiss and German riverside plants. Think Ciba-Geigy, think Ciba and Geigy from Europe. Think Ciba-Geigy in the United States when they came here, first in the Midwest, wound up in Toms River. At one time, there were 100 buildings on this site at its peak. None are left now. They tried to build 3 waste treatment plants, the last one in the 1970s when the Federal Clean Water Act was passed. Workers were falling ill. They had a very good medical department, and they documented some diseases, one of which was called blue lip disease, which had to do with the amount of oxygen that you could transmit in your blood. So these were serious illnesses amongst the workers. What's the lesson in my view? Failure to get river, groundwater, and lagoon pollution under control was a clear failure not only of the company, but of government, of state government at that time, and probably the federal government as well. We didn't really have to have this situation here. We could all be on vacation today. Let me spend another minute or so talking about the following. It turns out that very important things have been accomplished, particularly on this site, particularly since Pfizer took over in about 2009. Some of those have been mentioned, but I want to just go over very quickly again. Starting in the early 2000s, Crisis was calling for, and this was based on DEP also, New Jersey DEP also calling for a dedicated groundwater treatment facility to be built that could really handle the VOCs and the metals. Pfizer took up the cause when they took over in about 2009, and they were well supported by EPA in that. By 2012, a temporary dedicated groundwater treatment facility had been built, and it exists today. In addition to the groundwater treatment facility, they built an isolation wall around impoundment 1 and 2, did additional groundwater pumping. With that combination, the concentration of benzene, for example, in the river near impoundments 1 and 2 has been reduced from over 200 parts per billion prior to 2012 to less than 1/2 part per billion today. So it typically meets DEP, New Jersey surface water treatment, surface water concentration levels. Since this is a floodplain and the groundwater is so contaminated, we've still got another 30 years at least of groundwater pumping on this site, even after the remediation has been done. The last part of my comments, very quickly, is to say that I think there's probably still quite a long ways to go in spite of the achievement that EPA is introducing today. In 2012, the ROD for OU4 was introduced. We don't think it's necessarily perfect, but we think it is workable, assuming that the engineering design, which is ongoing, is well done. So that's got a ways to go. Today, we heard from the administrator of Region 2, Mr. Lopez, a very good plan. We think it's an excellent plan. We hope that that actually the amount of time between engineering, design, and implementation will actually be fairly good. But I think there's still a long way to go. We have to evaluate it further. So, but the great thing is that the material is going to be moved away from impoundments 1 and 2, as the folks have said before. So just in closing, I think that the future of the program is net very positive. We've got an EPA Superfund site here, which is now on the priority list, on the EPA priority list. I believe, and Crisis believes, that the EPA folks who are working on this are very good professionals, very dedicated folks. We've worked with them for a long time, and we're very happy to be working with them. Secondly, Pfizer's remediation group here does a very, very good job. They know their job very well, and we have a lot of faith in you folks. And they communicate well. And New Jersey DEP, which has contributed quite a lot in the past, is going to be revitalized now under the new commissioners. And we hope and support that revitalization. So lastly, I want to say that the community needs to continue to be involved. We need to continue to advocate. We need to communicate. And I think we also need to serve as sort of a ballast in uncertain political times. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes, unless somebody wants to sing a karaoke song. No, we're good? Okay. So with that, thank you all for coming. Bye.